Hey, leadership listeners, Alexander Thorg here with Dan Dalton. And today we'll have kind of unusual recording because Dan will host this event and he will ask questions. So I'll be honored to answer all those questions. So let's start. Hi, Dan.
Hello, Alex. It's good to see you again, my friend.
Same here.
I want to ask you some questions that I know that we've discussed in some of our conversations, and it really speaks to your five-step tactical system for leadership. And we've talked in the past about culture and how it impacts people's performance and just the way that they go about doing their job. So, what I'd like to hear from you is where do you think that organizations get into trouble when the culture needs to adjust and there's some kind of disconnect? Tell me where that breakdown happens.
Okay, thank you for that question, Dan. Based on my experience and based on what I see around the world in good companies, in strong companies, because I focus on good companies with strong organizational cultures. And the reason why, because first of all, it's much easier to work with smart and mature leaders than with beginners or with people who don't want to change, who don't want to grow their organizational culture. And as John Maxwell told me one time when we had a mentoring call, I asked him, John, how can I convince business owners that they have weak culture? And he told me, Alexander, don't do that. I asked, why? Because it means you tell them you're bad leaders. Instead of telling them that they have bad culture, just ask questions and you will see if they're willing to change. Because a lot of leaders, they want to grow, they want to change, but they are not willing to change. That's why my focus on those organizations and those executives who want to grow and willing to grow. And that's why I just I have a huge honor to help them to see that little trigger that just stop them from that growing process. And most of the times what I realize that trigger is inside of the organization in the middle level. Because when we talk
Mm.
about vision, values, and all the different cultural stuff, cultural stuff. All organizations they have vision, they have values, they have people, they have really good people because every single organization hires good talents and they want to have the best talents in their organizations. And very often they think that talents will do everything without investing in them, at least time
Mm.
to lead them well. That's why I think that the challenge is in the middle of the organization where organization, let's say when organization is growing and leaders just focusing on big vision and they want to grow that company or organization, but at the same time that pressure comes down and those mid managers they really feel it. They really feel it because they need to do more, they just need to work more and to apply new technology to see from different perspective, from different direction, and they put that pressure also on their people. And because of that, let's say managers put pressure on supervisors, and supervisors put pressure on people. And then what happened? Everybody knows what happens.
Right.
So
The culture breaks down a little bit.
absolutely. Well, I would say that a culture is doesn't breaks down; it just misaligned. And I would say that
Mm.
in this situation, culture doesn't have a problem. So we don't need to fix the culture because culture is strong already. And this is what I love about that, to work with those just amazing executives who know what they are doing. And when I see their vision, when I see their strategy, when I see their mission in actions. At the same time, I see what they need to fix, not culture, some operational system inside of the company. So
Okay.
that's
So
where I come
you
with
had
my
said that
five-step tactical system.
you said that John had given you guidance to ask questions instead of just point out, come out and point out things. What are some of the questions that you have found helpful in helping senior leaders realize that this misalignment is present?
Yeah, this is a really good question because, you know, good leaders ask great questions. And John, he wrote that book about. And when I just started my leadership journey, I thought that we have all answers because we just have
Mm,
like master's degree, we have a bachelor's degree or whatever, we have doctor's degree, but that's not true because we never have all answers. But to have all answers that we assume we'll have them, all of them, but it's impossible. We need to ask good questions. And over again, I just think about what question I would ask that executive that has that situation in his company. And I think that questions is very important to ask because without questions, we'll not be able to understand what exactly is going on in that company. And as our mentor, John Maxwell, he mentioned that leaders, good leaders, they just observe their people well, they listen their people well, they ask questions because they just need to understand what's going on in that company. And then they lead their people well based on those answers. And this is what I learned also from John, but it's only, you remember, it's only second level of leadership. But there is five.
right.
So
Okay.
when I
So
come,
just
yeah,
for those people who don't know, what are the five levels?
say again.
That for those who don't know, what are those five levels that you're speaking of?
So for those people who don't know those levels, basically there's five levels of leadership when I talk about John C. Maxwell. And I recommend to every single leader to buy that book, Five Levels of Leadership. It's over there. You can see the blue one. So basically, I encourage you guys to buy this book and to read it because a lot of you don't know what leadership is. You're just assuming that you know, but I'm sorry to telling you about that, but you don't. Because you know how to manage processes properly. You're super smart people. You super, not all of you. I just talk to those people who don't understand leadership. But at the same time, some people I realized from some companies and organizations, they understand what leadership is, they learn leadership, but they don't practice leadership.
Mm,
But leadership can be learned only by practicing leadership together with people every single day, going into situation in purpose, asking questions in purpose, just lead people in purpose. That's how you will get your experience through working with your people to through guiding them, through coaching them, through mentoring them, through asking good questions because you never have an answer. I never have an answer. I'm talking to you. I don't know what question Dan will ask me now. So I just trying to give the best answer possible. But I don't know all answers because, well, if I will not know, then just will cover that my blind spot that I don't know.
right,
And this is basically
right.
what leaders also uh, don't have in their teams sometimes. They don't have somebody who will cover their blind spots. And some leaders they know that they think that they know everything and they just lead. Their leadership style is command and control, but it has its
Mm.
limitations. And it's a matter of fact. And you know that. And I know that Dan will ask me some questions that I not really know how to answer, but I will try, and I just will send that question back to Dan, and Dan will be able to answer it. I know that because we are experts in leadership. Well, I don't like this word experts. We just students of leadership. We just learn leadership
Correct.
and we practice it. And there is not never a finish line. There is no never a finish line. So when we work with executives and help them to see those blind spots, it's very important, my friends, to have your thinking chair in your office and reflect.
Mm.
When you come to your office after you had conversation with your people, when you just realize that you have problem in the middle of your company, like with mid managers, and you talk to them. So you grab your just I don't know what you used to write, just grab your stuff, just what your notes, notepad, and you just sit on your thinking chair and reflect on it. Because leadership is all about reflection, and leaders, they grow out of it. Because when we don't reflect on what we have done, who we have met, what we have experienced with those people, we cannot grow.
Exactly.
So this is what I think about leadership, what's going on in different organizations. But what is missing part in different organizations, it's a system misalignment. So when company grows and company develops, let's say it was company like 500 people, now it's 1,000 people. Do you think it's easy to lead those people? Of course not. Why?
No.
Because you just see some managers, some capable managers from the middle level, and you think, you know what, Jerry, what do you think if I just will promote you? Maybe you'll go to that plant or you'll go to that division. I just need your help. And I want to serve you on that level. Can you help me there? And that John or that Jerry, he say, of course I can. So he goes there. And as soon as he went to that level, he just disconnected with his people right away, like this, right away. Why? Because he see people differently and people see him
Right.
also differently. So he needs to connect them with them again. So he needs to go back to the same people and connect with them from that level. But it's not an easy task to do because, of course, it just requires a lot of time, a lot of patience, because every single situation has different stories. And when you see the situation from different perspective, from higher perspective, you see more strategically, you see a bigger picture. So you have to make different decision. And it's not always easy. That's why you need to connect with your people to reconnect and see how to lead them from that perspective. Oh, sorry, I
And
just
I think that
talking too much. Just yeah,
that same connection from the senior leader to the middle, the connection that you're talking about with the middle management and their
yes,
people, there needs to be a similar connection between the senior leader and the middle so that that communication is clear
yeah,
and the that leader, because John Maxwell teaches us that leadership is influence, and that is the crux of leadership, is being able to influence. And of course, as a good leader, we want to influence in a positive way. And when we're paying into somebody that we are leading, then we're preparing them to for us to say, hey, Jerry, I need you over at this other plant. And he now understands the nature of the change,
exactly,
and then he can connect and communicate. And when it's done well, the promotion will be seamless, and Jerry, as a benefit at that new plant, will be successful as opposed to what you had said a minute ago about where there wasn't any preparatory work and Jerry's just thrown over there, but he's now lost because he's broken his connections.
Yes, that's true. And it's not just necessary that he broke his connections because he bad leader, not at all. Because he was,
No, no, no.
yeah, because no, I just wanted to say that it's because he was promoted. Basically, he was promoted because he was a good leader. And the point is that why that happens, based on my experience, what I see, because they feel a huge pressure over them because of those different responsibilities and different processes, different uh, strategy, and different technology. For example, now people just struggle with this AI, how to apply it in different situations and in different
Yeah.
departments. So there's a lot of challenges, and this is why sometimes those leaders need help, real help in the middle. And also, when you just mentioned then about that, senior leaders need to go and lead those people from the middle. You're absolutely right. But also, point is when senior leader, when company just grows to 5,000 people, let's say, or let's say even to 2,000 people, and that senior leader,
Mhm.
he just traveling around the country or just traveling around the world and trying to connect with his people, and he does different workshops. He go to frontline employees, he talk to frontline employees, he talks to mid-level managers, to supervisors, to everybody there, but it's impossible physically. It's simple, impossible physically to connect with those people. It's impossible. It's not just one-time event like this. It's a long process. Of course, that executive, he just shows who he is or who she is, and just share his or her vision with people and leaders in the middle level. But that's it. Then that uh, uh, top manager or top leader goes back to the head office and just he or she has his own uh, business to do from his level. So it's physically impossible to grow that
Right.
culture only based on one leader or just based on one or two or three connections with those people. So that's why then I believe that those companies need people like you and I to help them grow those organizations. And why I telling about you and me, because we outsiders and we see better what's going on in that company, in that organization, because we see all challenges and all problems from different perspective. We see their blind spots. And I believe that many organizations, they just make a little bit, well, it's not a huge mistake, but I would say they let's we'll focus what I mean by that. So a lot of companies, they hire culture transformation people. They just hire to be an employee in that company.
Mm.
It's a good point. It's a good point. It's this is a good step for mature leaders because they just hire somebody to help them to see, to help them see what they don't see. But very often, that the same person who was hired yesterday or who was hired, let's say, 6 months ago, that the same person get used to the situation, get used to those people, and to that company, and also blind spots come to him or her as well. So that person also cannot see some challenges that company
Mm.
has. That's why it's not because of their knowledge, not at all. They are super smart people who just being hired. But the point is, they just become also blinded, like horses, that they just have their blind spots because they
Yeah.
get used to the situation, they get used to people, they get used to all of that stuff was going on there, to the processes and etc. So, and again, that's why it will be a huge
Yeah,
advantage for the
growth.
company to hire people like you and I.
Yeah, growth is uncomfortable. You've got to be able to be humble and have a little bit of vulnerability to start the process of growth and recognizing that there are those blind spots is something that a mature leader needs to sort of appreciate and grow into. It's the leaders that refuse to recognize the blind spots that becomes a little bit of a problem because those blind spots will ultimately lead to their lack of success or perhaps even their total undoing as a leader. So you're absolutely correct. I think that we get comfortable and we don't like change and we resist it. And the very thought of some kind of evolution becomes a blind spot that just slows down the growth of a culture, the evolution of an organization as it grows and matures. And really, I think even brings on the decline of an organization faster than what would have normally happened if they had been pliable and recognized that there may be blind spots that they need to address that will block the growth of their culture.
Yeah. And what you just mentioned about that, they don't want to recognize. And again, I just come back to our conversation with John, and I just asked him similar question. And he said, listen, this is their choice. You'll not be able to convince somebody to change because they have to
Mm.
make the choice. They have to make the decision and manage that decision. So, and he said
Well,
some old joke about like five frogs on the log. They decided to jump off the log. Do you remember the joke? Yeah.
no, remind me.
So there was like five frogs on the log. It's joke about active listening and about I just let's see if you act if you're an active listener. So there were five frogs on the log. They
Okay.
decided to jump off the log. How many frogs left sitting on the log?
There are five frogs because the decision to jump isn't the action of jumping.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But so many leaders then they just make the decision, they understand what's going on in their company, and they just make the decision to change. They just want to change. They just grab it. They just, yes, let's go, let's change it. Nothing happens because
Right.
because decision is not an action. They need to manage that decision.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good conversation, really good conversation that we have, and I believe that listeners they just have so much value from these podcasts, and especially from those conversations that and those values that Dan just brought to us from previous podcasts about communication, because communication is really essential to leadership. And I see it over and over again in every single organization. And every single organization has a communication problem. How do you know that? It has people in it.
There's people in
So if
it.
and you know that. So folks, if you want to fix communication problem if you're in your company, just call Dan right away. I would say that he's great. He's a great expert. He just will come to you with disc assessment, and not just with disc assessment. Also, he will help you to identify those blind spots and will fix that communication challenge. I don't want to say problem, challenge. Let's say so. You don't have a problem. You have just a challenge.
Yeah. So my website, if I may be so bold, p314consulting.com. That's my organization, and I'm happy to help with communication and with any kind of assistance in team building that can be derived through the many questions that I will ask you guys as you reach out to me. But my name is Dan Dalton, and it's p314consulting.com. And I want to let my friend here give the credentials where you could get to his expertise.